Excellent. The session has been recorded. Everybody attending will get a copy of the slides afterwards sent out to you, so you don't need to make too many notes. First of all, thank you very much for joining Ash and I for the Help Systems webinar, What's New with Halcyon. Just a couple of introductions for those of you that may not know us. So I'm Donnie MacColl. I'm the Director of EMEA Technical Services for Help Systems. And I have the luxury of working with a number of the Help Systems solutions throughout EMEA and also Asia Pac with an amazing technical team, and also some testing team and services and pre-sales and people like that. And one of the best people on that team, you can probably guess, is Ash Giddings, who's one of our pre-sales specialists. Ash is an unusual breed, a rare breed. He started off many years ago on the IBM, but he specializes on IBM. He also specializes in cross-platform solutions, which is really what we're going to be concentrating on today. He's amazing on performance and great on security as well. So with that, that was Ash. So with that, I'll just tell you what we are actually going to be talking about today. Before I go through the agenda, I'll tell you what we are going to be talking about today. What I am going to do is just a little bit of a recap about the Halcyon solution that we are going to be talking about, certainly some of them today anyway, just give you a refresh. What Halcyon does, it provides a automation and monitoring solution for Windows, Linux, AIX, VIOS, and IBM installed natively in capitals, installed natively onto IBM Windows, Linux, AIX, and IBM and VIOS. The reason for that is it means that all the workload is done on the system that you're monitoring and the automation as well. It's a very light workload, but it means you're not sending network traffic across, you don't need ports open, and so it's a very, very secure system as well. Now, it's capable of automating the monitoring of any or all of the operating system you can see in this slide, and the operating systems it resides upon. It's great at automating applications on there, and the monitoring and the processing on the applications, make sure they're running. It monitors hardware, it does performance as well. You can pick and mix what it is that you want to do. You literally buy one solution, it can do all that. Huge advantage of the Halcyon solutions, the quick to install and configure. When I say that, generally, we're technical people. It's hours as opposed to days or weeks. It really is hours. One of the main reasons for that is it comes with a number of templates to get it productive rapidly. There's a centralized console that you can see to show the results of your monitoring. What we don't like to do is move the messages or alerts or something's gone wrong to another screen for you to do something about. We like to automate it. So that centralized console should be almost empty and just have a few alerts that you want to see. The solution's used worldwide. It's a mature solution, still being developed hugely, amount of effort going into adding anything in that people need. It's cloud ready. It's a solution of choice for managed service providers, cloud hosted application providers, as well as direct clients of all sizes. As I mentioned, it comes free of charge with templates built in for applications, high availability solutions, and various other things, but more of all that later. This is what the agenda looks like. Ash is going to do the bulk of the work, which is particularly nice for me. He's going to touch on some of the improvements we made to the Halcyon solution, how you can manage your alerts, both open and closed alerts for archive and historical reasons as well. He's going to show some pretty neat layouts and the way you can view what you want to see on an individual basis for your centralized monitoring. Got a really clever thing, which we called this alert intelligence, but it's tying together multiple rules to do some really clever stuff. Again, it means you can personalize what's important to you. I'll touch on some of the templates, and then we'll end up looking at the alert trend analysis as well. Before we do that, just want a little bit of crowd participation if I can. And actually, Ash, I'll see if I can launch this. So we'll just launch a polling question. And the first one is, you launch that. Which of these operating systems or platforms are you responsible for? If you could select all that applied, that would be superb. And we'll just have about a minute or so for people to respond to that. It'd be really good if you would respond to that for us, please. It helps us tailor the webinar as we go through to concentrate in the areas that people actually want to see.
I think this is, I think, Bonnie, if you've probably done this poll 10 years ago, people were quite siloed. You had IBM people, you had non-IBM people. I think we see, you probably say more and more now, people are having to manage multiple platforms, whether they're comfortable or not. It falls into their lap quite often now.
Totally agree. Totally agree. So let me just see. Okay, collect responses. Just give 5 more seconds. Okay, I'll just close that and I'll share the results. Exactly what you said, Ash. Now, not unsurprisingly, everybody on here that's responded has IBMI, which is what we'd expect, especially from the traditional Halcyon customers. But you see there, a quarter of them also have Windows. And if you look at that, about 1 in 6 also says AIX and 1 in 10 Linux. Really interesting to see. Yeah, absolutely good. I really like that. So thank you very much, everybody, for responding. And now I'll pass it over to you, Ash.
Thank you, Donnie. Can you close the poll? Wonderful.
Go.
Wonderful. Well, the first thing you'll see is that we haven't got a green screen in front of us, or a black screen with green writing. So normally when we do the what's new with Halcyon, and we tend to do them 2 or 3 times a year to line up with the product enhancements. Normally we're talking about green screen enhancements to the green screen. It makes a change today. We're talking about non-green screen. So I'm quite excited. So the non-green screen solution we're really focusing on today is Network Server Suite. So that, as Donnie mentioned, that encompasses everything outside of I. So that's Windows, AX, Linux, BIOS, and of course the enterprise console in the middle, which can be shared by I. But we've done a lot of work in and around Network Server Suite and the enterprise console. So I thought it would be great for us to be able to share that with you. So the first thing you see here, for those of you that aren't familiar with this is the enterprise console. So this allows you to consolidate alerts across multiple partitions, multiple different platforms. You can also receive alerts in here from any SNMP devices. So any hubs, switches, routers, printers, environmental equipment can all forward their alerts into this common console. And that's really where you gain most of the advantage. The more partitions or more platforms you have to look after, the bigger value the console is. So we've refreshed this particular panel, this particular console. It's newer, it looks more modern. I think it's fresher. I find it a lot fresher. And some of the things we've done in here, we've popped this into the screen. There's a little search bar. Donnie alluded to it at the start. Ideally, we want people to use this console as a monitoring by exception console. So it should be empty most of the time. In reality, most people don't do that. Most people purely use this as like a dumping ground and have tens or hundreds of alerts on this console. So finding an alert of interest can be challenging. So we've now got this little window here that allows you to search or to find particular text strings in it. I'm looking for the word scheduler, and of course I've found the word scheduler. And you can then do a next, 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 and keep finding occurrences of that particular word. The other thing we've done here is we've done this. So this is much more in keeping of I guess like a web app, really, in that you can choose how many alerts per page. So if we assume these are pages, I've got my IBMI alerts going here, I've got everything else going here, and I've got my list of devices down here, and I can control and customize that. You can state how many alerts per page you want. So that could be quite key, particularly as you can shrink the font. So if you have it on a huge LCD on the service desk, you may want the font quite large, but you can control the font size, and therefore you control the number of alerts that you see in this console. What else this does as well, this alerts per page, it stops something that has kicked us a number of times, and many of you would have had this, in that with the enterprise console, it shows you all open alerts. Sometimes, particularly on the I, we could have a message storm, what we call internally a message storm. So that's Halcyon has a rule and has legitimately picked up something hundreds or thousands of times where it has an action, and it's forwarded those alerts to a console. And the enterprise console, again, has legitimately tried to display those hundreds or thousands of alerts. And in some cases, I'm not sure what the record is now, it's something like 340,000 open alerts people have. And the console can't cope. You can't display that many alerts. It wasn't designed for that. So by having the alerts per page enables us to just to go and grab X number of open alerts. So it's a lot more efficient, and you should find the enterprise console hanging and not being able to present the open alerts. That should be definitely a thing of the past now. What else have we done in here? I think we've got, let me just go to the next screen here. So still in the console, and this is where we spent most of the work, most of the time. We've improved, and for some of you, this will probably be news. We've improved the grouping of alerts. It's been in the product for a while. What it enables you to do is to group alerts with the same text string from the same system under one. So this one here, the font's probably quite small, but I've got 5 open alerts here, all from HAL 720p2, all saying exactly the same thing. There's no point in displaying all of those 5 alerts. They take up 5 lines on that particular screen. So I've folded them up underneath. And what happens when you click on that grouped alert is you get the details in this details panel here. And again, you can choose to have or to not have this details pane through the designer, but it does tend to indicate that, hey, it's an alert group. It's got 5 open alerts, and it tells you the first and tells you the last. Now, some people, there's a little arrow on the left-hand side there. Some people may want to expand that. So you can click on that, and that opens up all of those alerts, those 5 alerts. So there's a saying in the UK that you can't see the wood for the trees, and that's why we put grouping in. So it's particularly relevant where you're monitoring lots of boxes and you've got lots of alerts going in. Now, this is a big change for us, and again, it's part of the enterprise console, so therefore it's relevant to all platforms, including I. And this is closed alerts. In the older version of Network Server Suite, so the older one was 10.3, this one is 11, and this has been around since about February or March time. In the older version, when an alert was closed, it went into this proprietary database, and it was really hard work to find an old alert or even to do anything with it. We've improved that. So whereas if I go back to my previous screen, we've got 2 tabs here now. We've got open alerts and closed alerts. If we click on closed alerts, we see nothing to start with. We have a whole series of selection fields here that allows us to pinpoint or to drill into closed alerts. So we can see closed alerts, we can see the actions that were taken. So maybe if you have SMSs or emails lined up behind alerts, you can see those. You can also, and this was a customer request a while ago, they wanted to be able to add comments to closed alerts. You can obviously do that for open alerts. You can also do it for closed alerts now. So if at a, I don't know, if at a later date you work out the cause behind a particular problem, you can go back, find that alert and put some comments on it. So I think that's particularly powerful. So that was a managed service provider actually asked for that. Okay, the mobile apps have taken a refresh. So for those of you that are maybe not aware, we have mobile apps for Apple and for Android devices. They're available on the on the web stores, on the app stores. And here's what they look like. And this is really brings the management of not just iAlerts, but any platform alerts into the 21st century. So it's an app. You sign into the app, sign into the enterprise console. You can see your open alerts, you get a count. And we've been as clever as we can on this particular screen to show you the date, the time, the status, the text, and things like that. So you can see open alerts. You can also drill into those open alerts and see alert details. So you can see the devil behind that particular detail in there. If all you're interested in is have I got any open alerts, you can sort by alerts per device. And one final thing in here, you can manage it as if you were on the enterprise console. So you can add comments to it. You can also acknowledge alerts. So again, it may be news to some of you, but something you can do, you can push alerts to the enterprise console, and then maybe after 10 minutes, if they're still open, have them emailed out, maybe 5 minutes later, SMS'd out. So you have some escalation at the back end. By acknowledging alerts, which you can do from the mobile devices, you stop that escalation. So everything you can do from an enterprise console client, you can also do from a mobile phone. Okay, there's a bit of a theme here. So more in and around the console. So we had layouts previously, but they weren't very flexible. So we've improved these, and we've brought in some additional flexibility. So there are now private and public layouts here. So as a system administrator, I might be in charge of a series of teams that are managing alerts. So I can design a layout for a particular team. So maybe I design a layout for, I don't know, the Open Systems team, the Linux team, and that layout would only include Linux groups in there, and it would be sorted in a way that that team wants. So I could create a public group for them. I could create a Linux group in here. I can also create private ones. So private ones just belong to me. They're not shareable, whereas public ones are visible to anybody. So all anybody needs to do is to sign into the console with their account, their ID, click on layouts, and they will see whatever's made public. And I definitely recommend experimenting with layouts, with playing with layouts, what you can get on the screen, because again, we've added some flexibility in there. This is quite a basic one. This has just got one alert panel. We don't really care about the platform. We've got some Windows boxes in here and some Linux and IBM. All we care about is an alert. Now that's not for everybody. Some people have separate teams, so that's where you could start to separate them. Hold and release rules. So Donnie alluded to this at the start. And again, for those of you that just have our I software, I'll introduce what you see here. This is our central configuration management console. So this is the equivalent of our work with rules, but this is the rules on AX, Linux, Windows, and FiOS. And what you can do now, within my Windows server here, I've got an event log rule that I've edited, and based on something happening in the event log, some text string appearing or not appearing, I can do something. Most commonly, people would console it to the enterprise console or send an email. But what you can do now is you can hold and release other rules. So that allows you to dovetail multiple rules together. So if something happens, so maybe if we see something happening in the event log, we know we're going to get another 10 alerts for something else that's that's based on that. So we could hold those rules. So that's really clever. And what we are really about in Halcyon is preventing a flooding of alerts. Halcyon can monitor pretty much everything. So the last thing we want is to flood you with alerts. We just want to tell you things that need your attention. So as and when you hold a rule or release a rule, you're given a choice of, okay, which rule do you want to hold? And that's exactly what you see in there. So that's a welcome addition to Network Server Suite. Donnie, I think you're going to talk about templates.
Yeah, that's really interesting, Ash. The hold and release feature, that's really neat in the to have that for the Network Server Suite. Really like that. Stay tie the rules together. Talking of rules, I mentioned at the beginning, we tried to make things easy with a templates guide that we continuously expand upon. And Ash mentioned before, we get questions from managed service providers, from direct customers as well. And typically what we say to people is, what's important to you? We can monitor your operating system, your hardware, your performance, certain aspects of security, but what applications do you use? You can see here some of the applications that people have come forward and said, this is what's important to us to make sure that we have the highest availability, that our applications are available, that users can sign on. Especially if people run from home, automation is working from home, automation is extremely key now. You can see some of the templates we've built up. Now, templates are really a bunch of rules. So you can do this yourself if you want. You can add all the rules in yourself if you want. But what we've done is made it easy. We've spoken to people and said, well, we don't run some of these. In fact, we don't run most of these. So, for example, let's have a look at Power HA. What's important to you to monitor? When people tell us, we'll create a template and make it available to everybody. And these are just some of the templates that we have available. The good thing is they're free of charge. They actually come with the solution and they're totally free. So you can literally apply it to a system or systems and be up and running and monitoring really, really quickly. Now, just have a look at one of them, new edition. On IBM i, we already have a WebSphere and MQ template. We always actually have a full-blown solution. And we'd had it. We'd had some on Windows, some on Linux, some on AIX, and we've really spent a bit of time bringing it all together, finding the key areas that we need to monitor, in this case for MQ. And you can see here, this is MQ on Linux and AIX. So, for example, what we've done is taken a Network Server Suite instance, and the areas that are highlighted, these are just the areas that we've added rules into. So I said you can pick and mix. So you get the full-blown solution, but in this case, for us to monitor and do some comprehensive monitoring automation of MQ, we picked on 4 of the rule types. We picked on script monitor, we've got the file and folder monitor, the log file monitor, and the process monitor. Now here, if you look on the right-hand side, we can see we're making sure that the actual MQ is running itself. So, for example, are the listeners active? Because they aren't, the application isn't running. Is the process manager active? So we're saying if it's not active, we want to do something about it. What do you want to do? Typically start it. So rather than just tell you about it, if you remember back to the previous screen that Ash showed you, where the hold action was, on there's also the ability to run a script, to do regular expression, to stop and start a process. Oh, stop and start a process, brilliant. In that case, if the processes aren't running, we'll start them and make sure they are running. And it's only if they don't start properly, then we'll come and tell you so you can do something about it. So we're looking at this screen, and here we're looking at the log file. Lots of information goes into log files. Typically with log files, people look at them after the event when something's gone wrong and go, that's what it was. The Network Server Suite, you can look at the log files continuously, and in pretty much near real time, we can look for something, we tell it what it is we want to look for. If that occurs, it doesn't occur, then we can do something about it. So you can see in here, for example, we're looking at the channel status. We're looking at the TCP/IP listener program, we're looking at max number of channels reached. And just give you an example of one of it sounds really basic, but let's say, for example, within WebSphere MQ, you should have 50 different jobs or processes running, and there's only 49. How would you know by looking at the screen? Unless you're going to sit there and count them, this can do just that. It can look in the log file to see if a process has stopped or never started properly in the first place. It can try and start it for you. It can look, for example, to see if the queue manager has ended, the channel status is not correct. So anything that you'd have to do manually after somebody had told you there was something wrong, you can do in here continuously. Go here, the file and folder monitor. Now you can, all the items that I talk about, you can use for lots of other things. We're just concentrating on MQ here. Now, this is pretty important. This is looking at directory permissions and ownership to make sure that system critical files are owned by the correct people, so you don't get anybody else accidentally deleting them or inadvertently changing them. And some of these log files, for example, if people have just had a look and saved it incorrectly, can actually prevent the system starting in the first place, and you wouldn't know until you tried to restart the system. What this does is make sure the permissions are correct all the time. It makes sure the contents are correct all the time. If they're wrong, it can change it back, tell you if something's happened. And then last we're going to touch on is the script monitor. This is really where you can do absolutely everything. And if it's not included in here, now you just look at some of the things that are in here. For example, we're monitoring the last get, the time that we last went to get a message or put a message. We're looking for queues of wrong names. We're looking at the dead letter queue, for example. We're looking at queue depth. Anything you can think of. If it's not in here, you just tell us. So you apply the template, say, actually, what's really important to us is this. We can add it in for you. Or you do it yourself, but if you want, just phrase a support call. We go, oh, here you go. This is how you do it. Really, really simple. And that's the whole point. So say that's just touching on MQ, but there's lots of templates for pretty much anything you can think of. And we're really open to creating other templates, because if you've got that need, there's a good chance somebody else has as well. We just add it into Network Server Suite. The next time somebody downloads it or upgrades it, or we can in fact just send you the template as well, then you've got that as well.
That's brilliant, Donnie. Yeah, that's brilliant. In fact, that MQ template that was written by one of the techies in the office who's got loads of experience with MQ and AX. So that's been ported to MQ and AX, and it's at least as comprehensive as the IBM MQ Manager product on IBMi. Yeah, one of the big things, one of the times we spent a lot of time on is reporting, and reporting to customers and managed service providers is different. Everybody wants to report on something different. It's a moving target. So we've done some work here, and with reporting, you've always been able to report on performance type metrics, CPU, disk, memory, processors, processor load, CPU load, that kind of thing. You can do that with the Advanced Reporting Suite bolt-on, so you can do that for any platform, including I. But what people were asking for are some visibility into alerts. How long have they been open for? Who closed them? Those kind of things. So in the server options now, so this sits at the back of the enterprise console, there's now a button that says capture reporting data. And once you turn that on, these are the kind of things that you can report on. So the number of alerts, or the number of alerts closed, some of these are, particularly for managed service providers, these are key. They need to prove value to their customers. So they produce reports to say, hey, this is what we've been doing for the monthly subscription. These are key as well. How long does it take to close these alerts? This can aid your training program. Maybe it takes longer to close Linux alerts than it does IBMi. Maybe the team are more familiar with IBMi. What's the most frequent alert? And again, this can be part of a performance improvement program. Let's try and nail the top 10 most frequent alerts so they don't happen. Remember, ideally, you want this enterprise console to be empty most of the time. You don't want constant alerts. But what you do want to do is to be able to identify the busiest time, or the busiest day, or the busiest box, or even the busiest customer. So all of that can be done now with what we've done within the Advanced Reporting Suite and that button within the enterprise console. And here's some samples here. So this is top 10 alerts by device group, and these groups could be anything. They could be platform, they could be application, they could be particular customers. And you can see at a glance what the alert text was. You can get this out as well. You can get the actual product and the source that it came from, if that's of interest to you. It's of interest to me. I don't run production environments, but you can get all of this out. And these reports are templated as well. So we have a web portal within the Advanced Reporting Suite that you can go to, and you say, I want to run this report for this box, or for this customer, or for this platform. So all of that is built in. And of course, you can tweak those templates or base your reports on those. Here's another example here. This is what we've labeled a kind of a monthly alert summary, again by platform. And again, these could be grouped in any way, shape, or form. These could be customers. And you can see here that AIX, this is how many we've closed. It took us 16 minutes on average to close them. Obviously, replies are not valid there, but it allows you to see at a glance what you or what your team or what you've been doing for customers. So really powerful, and it literally takes seconds to run these reports. As I say, they're all pre-canned, or you can design your own. Back to the enterprise console in here. When you right mouse click an alert, like I have done here, you're given a number of options, and one of those options is add comment, another's acknowledge, and another is close. Whenever you use any of those, all of that transient data is recorded. So right from the open time to adding in comments, to acknowledging it, to closing it, all of those times and those intervals all get recorded so that you can then report on it at a later date. It's just another sample report. This is for a managed service provider. They wanted a very visible traffic light based report. So we produce this for them. So this is now shipped with the product. So if you have a desire to report on this kind of activity, let us know, and we can send you a file that will produce this type of report. But they wanted a management summary as their first header. So they've got 5 or 6 other pages, but they wanted the first page just to be this is what the execs are going to look at. They just want to know if it's green, amber, or red. And that's exactly what we can do here. But the reporting suite is incredibly flexible. You can produce reports in any way, shape, or form. Something else here, probably a little bit more familiar. IBMI type report, and again, this has come from the advanced reporting suite. So we can split. Again, this is a customer example. We split their days into AM and PM. This is what they wanted. So we can produce again reports with summaries at the start. And this is something else that you can do within the reporting suite. And again, once you've got an advanced reporting suite installed, it's all templated. So you can produce a report that tells you your top 10 library sizes over a particular day or month. Lots of flexibility in ARS now. And obviously everything we've talked about today is in Network Server Suite 11. So that includes the enterprise console. Most people out there at the moment are probably running 10.3. So there's 3 things really to make you aware of when you do embark on that upgrade. It's probably 4 actually. The upgrade is really slick. It's seamless. It's almost next. But layouts that we looked at earlier, where you can have private and public layouts, they're now stored in SQL. So you can obviously back those up going forward. They weren't stored in SQL previously. So existing layouts are actually lost on upgrade. So for those of you that are using that, just make a note of what your layouts look like, and you'll have to replicate those post-upgrade. From a security standpoint, we had to drop SQL Server 2005 and 2008. There were some vulnerabilities in there, so we've had to drop that. The only other thing to tell you about on upgrades is any existing alerts that you've got. So any open alerts that you've got in your enterprise console, they get lost on upgrade. But I don't think that's a huge thing, because the upgrade is so fast. So just pick your time when you're going to upgrade. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. But it is literally next. Back to you, Donnie.
Thanks very much, Ash. Now, everybody, thank you so much for staying with us. We have overrun a bit. That's one of the downsides for poor Ash, but buddying up with me. I can talk, and I always tend to talk too much, but everybody's still here. So while you are still here, if I may, just have the final little bit of your time, if I can just launch the final poll, and then we'll let you get back to whatever you're doing. How can help systems help you? Please do select all that apply, and if you're just rapidly go through this, I'd really appreciate it. It'd be really good of you. And yeah, interesting stuff there, Ash. And what I do like is that you pointed out the what we need to think about considerations for the actual upgrading to the latest version as well.
Yeah, definitely. And it's, as I say, it's nice to not talk about green screen for a change, because as you know, we have, when we're not in lockdown, we have customers visit us, and there's a major managed service provider that visits us that manage close to 200 partitions, and all they bring with them is an iPad with the enterprise console. And you know, that's popular marketing in itself, I think.
Yeah, it did. And it's just on the flip side of that, one of the clients we worked with last year in the UK actually, and wouldn't know an IBM if it bit them. And they said to me, Joe, you might not be interested in our installation. It's quite a small one. We've only got 1,200 AIX partitions. And I had to laugh, but it kind of gave people the impression that I thought it's something I hadn't thought about, that when you look at the Halcyon solutions from Health Systems, that you think, oh, it's an industrial strength, which it is. It must be really expensive, which it isn't, and it must only be for the big boys. And it's not. I mean, literally, we've got managed server providers with hundreds and thousands of installations and clients of Windows, Linux, AIX, IBM, multiple copies of IS. And we've also got people with one IBM partition or none, and maybe 3 AIX partitions, 10 Linux servers as well. It's the same solution. That's what's really neat. So when you do go to download it, it's exactly the same solution. So cool. Right. Thank you very much, everybody. So I'll close that to share the results. Okay. I'd like a free health check. Absolutely. There's good. I'll tell you what, anything that's free, I like. And everything we've shown you on here, if you already have the solution, it's free. You just upgrade. The templates are free. Like a trial, actually, that's one of the questions that came in. How do we trial it? You can get a 30-day free trial for any of the solutions that we have. Let me just check. Well, we have got people on. Ash, there is a question which you can take, actually. I've probably done see built in to my Vias. Why does it need monitoring? That people, I guess that means they've got, like a lot of people have 2 or 4 or 6 or 8 copies of Vias.
Yeah, that's pretty common. I think most people, when they implement Vias, they tend to use business partners, so they don't tend to do it themselves. It's quite specialized, and they're implemented in pairs. So typically a couple per physical server. We've had more than one customer that have lost one of the Vias partitions, and they don't know. And while that's okay, what happens if they lose a second? And as I say, more than one customer has lost number 1 and then number 2, and they lose the whole machine and obviously every partition on it. So we, with our Vias monitoring, not only do we have a heartbeat, so that when it disappears, we get a console alert. We can actually do some proactive monitoring in and around the file systems, CPU load, and things like that. And there's a template for Vias monitoring.
Of course there is. I forgot. Yeah, there is actually. Thank you. Good. But thanks, Ash. Good. I'm going to wrap up there. So everybody, thank you so much for joining us. Apologies that we overran, but as I say, it's my fault for talking too much. But I did want to listen to what Ash was saying. There's some really interesting stuff there. Appreciate you all taking time out of your schedule. So thank you very much again. You will get a copy of this, and we'll follow up on all the items for free health check and various other things as well. So stay safe, stay happy, and thanks very much, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.